Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like when there is an economic collapse in your country. Now, it doesn't matter what country it is. We're going to take a look at Lebanon and what's happening there, and they're having a full-blown economic collapse. Why? Because the central banks said no more. We can't do it anymore, and now people are having to pay the price. Not the people that made the policy for all of the other lemmings to follow, but those people that are the workers, that are the wage earners, that earn a salary, that actually have to work for a living. Caretaker PM warns that Lebanon's total economic collapse is imminent. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati warned on Tuesday that the country's total economic collapse will be imminent in the event that the central bank and its newly appointed governor fail to implement reform policies called for by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. And what they're saying there is, you do what we tell you to do, you place the capital controls that we want you to place, you conduct the austerity that we want you to do, and then we'll print money out of thin air and lend it to you. That's what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see here, where they're saying that it's an imminent economic collapse, just take a look at what's happening in the streets in Lebanon, and you'll know that it is an economic collapse already. I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call, and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision. And he goes on to say, quote, Lebanon will not be able to secure medicine or pay salaries in foreign currency. That's what I've often talked about here in the United States. The US dollar is the world reserve currency, and therefore it will be the last to fall. But when it falls, man, things are going to be terrible all around the world, especially for those countries that are not taking proactive measures to insulate themselves against the dollar's fall. Right, these countries are going to fall just as hard, if not harder, than the US dollar. But ladies and gentlemen, what will happen here eventually is the same thing that's happening in Lebanon. I mean, it's already been happening here in the United States of America, but it's been happening in slow motion. Our dollar's value has devalued about 97.5% in the last 100 years or so. It just happens that in Lebanon, it happened in 1 year. Right, so it's hyperinflation. Ours has been inflated away. The value has been inflated away for the last 100 years or so. And I forget who it is that said this, but they said something like, how did you go bankrupt? This person, I think it was an author. I'm not sure if it was Mark Twain or not. Don't quote me. But they asked him, how did you go bankrupt? And he said simply, at first I went bankrupt very slowly, very gradually, but then all at once. So he was losing his money very gradually, slowly, and then all at once. That's what's going to happen here in the United States with the US dollar, the Federal Reserve note, when it finally does happen. It's a fiat currency, ladies and gentlemen, that's made out of nothing but your hopes and your wishes to have a better life, because that is exactly what it steals from you. And why does it do that? Because that is what it was meant to do. Lebanon has been negotiating with the IMF in order to secure a bailout package to alleviate the severe economic crisis created by the decades of corruption in the financial sector. Now ask yourself, do you think that there's corruption in the financial sector here in the United States of America and in any other Western nation that you may be watching this video from? Ladies and gentlemen, what's going to happen is inevitable. Okay, what's going to happen is inevitable. The question is, are you prepared? I think this time in history that we're living through right now, it's probably one of those times that we have the ability to get prepared ahead of time for what's coming and to be able to survive and make it through. But are you doing those things that are proactively allowing you to prepare for what's coming? It doesn't have to be a lot. Even a little bit is more than most people. Here it says, however, Washington, the IMF, and the World Bank, imagine that, Washington. What does Washington have anything to do with Lebanon and their financial sector? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. The IMF and the World Bank, which are both institutions that are not voted into by the people of Lebanon or by the people of any country in the United States, in the world, not in the United States, in the world, ladies and gentlemen. So normally you see these two actors, the IMF, the World Bank, whenever there's some kind of economic collapse or economic problems in some countries, they're always there, the IMF and the World Bank. Let me see. And the World Bank have been accused of exploiting the country's economic crisis to exert political pressure on Lebanon. Now, if you've never read the book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by, what's his name again? Oh, John Perkins. Yes, by John Perkins. Go read that book, and it will definitely wake you up as to how the world works, ladies and gentlemen. And finishing this one off, as a result of the financial crisis Lebanon faces, the country's currency has lost 98% of its value, and the life savings of a majority of citizens have been wiped out. And that's what the average person out there does not understand. It's that when the dollar is not when the dollar is gone, like I said, I think on my previous video, the dollar is not going to go away. It's just that the money is not going to buy them anything close to what it did a year ago. In this example, a year ago, their money was able to buy them twice as much as what it can today. So they still have the same amount of money. Their life savings is still there. X number of dollars is still there, or X number of lira is still there. It's just not going to buy them anything close to what it was able to buy them before. And that is why inflation is the greatest theft that many people don't know is a theft. Many people think, oh, it's just inflation. It's something that always happens. No, ladies and gentlemen, inflation is a theft of your labor, of your time. I did a video a while back where I talked about the Cloward and Piven strategy. For those of you that don't know what the Cloward and Piven strategy is, I'll try to remember to leave the video that I did on the upper right hand corner over here so you can click on it and go watch that video after this one. But what that strategy says is that if you want to take a country that is a free country and turn it into a communist country, a socialist country, that what you do is you overload it. You overload it so that it can implode from within. You overload all of the resources that it has in order to be able to accommodate the constituents of the elected government. And that is what's happening in real time with the border, ladies and gentlemen, with our spending, with our deficit spending, and all of these things is what's happening. We are being overloaded. Our systems are being overloaded to where they cannot handle it anymore. And here you can see that even the Democrats are now asking the White House for help because of the emergency that they themselves helped to create. I'm not getting political here. I could care less. But if you can sit there and say that we do not have a problem with people coming into this country that are not supposed to be here, as far as the law states, then you're just not being honest with yourselves. But this has been all planned, all right? Listen to this. 54 elected officials in New York City have sent a letter to the president to address the influx of the illegal immigrants in the city, asking him to declare a federal state of emergency so that the immigrants can legally work in the country. Hear that, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Cloward and Piven strategy being played out, and it is also the Hegelian dialectic. Create a problem, see how the people react, then offer a solution that will allow your agenda to go forward. And they say, we are elected officials from New York City requesting your help. Our city is experiencing an unprecedented migrant influx, with a surge of asylum seekers arriving here in numbers never seen before in history. I wonder why. Our city is at the breaking point. We take pride in New York being a beacon of hope for immigrants, but the influx of immigrants is so great that the city is running out of resources. Taking resources from who to give it to who? That's what you have to ask yourself. I hope that people are waking up. I hope that people are waking up and that they are going to take their city back, and that they're going to take their state back, and that they're going to take their country back. Because this is going to end very badly unless something happens soon where people wake up en masse and understand what it is that's going on. We are going to take over, they say. Chicago residents threaten to deal with the influx of disruptive illegals. Ladies and gentlemen, Cloward and Piven strategy. It's what it is. I mean, this is textbook Cloward and Piven and Hegelian dialectic. Enraged residents of Chicago suburbs sounded off over the disruptive behavior of illegal migrants who were dropped off at a local shelter. Retailers strike back. 7-Eleven workers beat brazen mega shoplifter with a stick in what we hope will be looked back on as a pivotal stick-whooping heard around the world. Two 7-Eleven workers in California lashed out at a mega shoplifter who defiantly threw hundreds of packs of cigarettes in a 55-gallon trash can. We are being overwhelmed, ladies and gentlemen. Did these things happen 10 years ago? Did you hear of these things happening? No. Why? Because there were laws in place that actually worked. But now they're taking these laws, they're pushing these laws back. You know, I think it's in California that you can steal up to $950 and it not be grand theft. So it's just a misdemeanor. But to who and how many times a day? Can you steal $950 or $949 from somewhere 5 times a day, just separate occasions? It's ridiculous that criminals are being allowed to thrive while good, hardworking people are having to pay the price. And on top of that, having to pay the city that they live in taxes and getting absolutely nothing for it. I am very certain that you haven't heard this in the mainstream media, and I could be wrong because I don't watch the mainstream media. I don't have cable TV or any of that stuff. But here it says that meat consumption and longevity. A study was performed that debunked that Blue Zone study about Okinawa, Japan, and how they live so long because they eat mainly grains. Well, I think that previous study, they failed to tell you all that they eat a lot of pork. All right, they eat a lot of fatty pork. But let's read on. For years, we have heard that the secret to a long life is to cut back on meat consumption and increase our intake of carbs. Advice that is enshrined in the USDA's dietary guidelines for Americans. But that's not what these researchers found. Well, what did they find? The researchers found that worldwide, meat intake was associated with longer life. Your body needs animal proteins, animal fats. My opinion. And by contrast, consumption of carbohydrates had a weak but negative correlation with life expectancy, meaning that it didn't really change your life expectancy that much, but that it was a negative correlation, being the opposite of the correlation that meat consumption had with longevity. So go out there and eat your steak, ladies and gentlemen, guilt-free. Don't feel guilty for the animal as long as it had a good life. That's what they were put here for, ladies and gentlemen. Don't feel guilty for the planet. Cow farts have absolutely nothing to do with climate change, ladies and gentlemen. The climate changes every single day. The CO2 in the atmosphere is not your fault. And what's the CO2 level in the atmosphere? 400 and something, 420, something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about 1/3 of what scientists acknowledge that is needed for optimal plant growth. So the less CO2 that we have, the worse off that it is in order for us to be able to feed the world. You know, there are some greenhouse growers, like farmers that mainly grow in greenhouses. Guess what they pump into their greenhouses? Guess what gas they pump in there? They pump CO2 in there. Why? Because it makes the plants grow bigger and better. Why? Because we need CO2 in order to be able to live. So don't feel guilty. Go eat your meat and live a long and happy life. I want to say thank you very much to all of you that joined in during today's live stream. Congratulations to all of the winners, of course. And remember that we'll be meeting up sometime this weekend. So make sure that you send me your information as soon as possible. And for those of you that are still here during this part of the video, thank you very much for sticking through the end. That really helps the YouTube algorithm push the videos out to more people. So sticking to the end really does help. And if you want to support this channel without it costing you any money, and maybe you want to donate 15 to 30 seconds of your time, just let an ad or two run through. But don't let an ad run through that's like 5 minutes long. Once it hits that 30-second mark, feel free to hit skip and the channel still gets credit for it. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for everything. Thank you for coming on over every time that I put up a video. Have a great day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.